That is bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 535. The total number of cases recorded on recoveries stand at 9 in the past 24 hours. That bringing the total of recovered cases to 182. So far, in the past 24 hours, no fatalities have been recorded in the country. Now, these are some of the issues that we shall be looking at in our bulletin tonight. For now, we take a look at the highlights.
Positive COVID-19 cases rise to 535, with Health Ministry reporting 45 more cases amid concerns over disregard of Ministry of Health guidelines. Hundreds displaced in Budalangi as ongoing rains continue to wreak havoc in parts of the country. Somali government pledges to cooperate with Kenya over probe on a plane crash that killed 6 people on Monday amid mounting pressure from Nairobi.
Welcome to the broadcast. My name is Jackie Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter this evening is Byron Abuli. Now, to kick us off, the Ministry of Health says the government is considering escalating measures in estates that have been identified as hotspots in Nairobi and Mombasa. The drastic proposals coming after the country recorded the highest number of positive cases in a single day since the first case was reported. The total tally of positive cases now stand at 535 after 45 more cases were confirmed, with all the 29 positive cases in Nairobi hailing from Eastleigh State.
The number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the country on Tuesday surpassed the 500 mark after 45 more cases were confirmed, the highest number to be recorded in a single day.
Our cumulative figure of those who have tested positive to the COVID-19 stands at 535 people. This, of course, is the highest number recorded in 24 hours ever since the first case on the 12th of March.
The new data saw Eastleigh consolidate itself as the coronavirus red zone in Nairobi after recording 29 new cases.
The 29 cases that you have heard which are from Nairobi are all from Eastleigh. That means that as we speak, there are 63 cases within the Eastleigh area alone. That tells you then that there is community spread happening within Nairobi.
The county of Nairobi is still leading with 317 cases, with Eastleigh accounting for 63 cases, with Kawangware recording 24 cases. Mombasa comes in second with 169 cases, with Old Town alone having a total of 39 cases.
We need to take action in those particular areas, and we are in the process today of consultation with the respective authorities in those counties so that we can determine what action we are going to take.
The ministry cautioning Kenyans against going back to their normal lives and ignoring guidelines already in place, even as 9 more people recovered from the disease, bringing the total of recoveries to 182.
We seem to have come to the conclusion as a society that things have gone back to normal. Today's figures show things are far, far from normal.
Meanwhile, truck drivers have been urged to get tested for coronavirus at the point of origin to minimize the risk of being detained at the country's border points. As the number of confirmed coronavirus cases surpassed the 500 mark on Tuesday, the Ministry of Health says that talks are in top gear to escalate measures, especially in the areas that have been identified as hotspots, especially in the counties of Nairobi and Mombasa. Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
Efforts to contain the spread of the COVID-19 disease in the country have intensified, with county administrations partnering with national government to effect a host of mitigation mechanisms. The efforts coming amid renewed concern over increasing positive cases that surpassed the 500 mark on Tuesday.
It has been testing times for county administrations as they seek to adopt best practices in the control of the coronavirus pandemic. In Narok, the war against the COVID-19 disease has been intensified, with health workers working closely with security agents, leaving nothing to chance.
Tutaki hata mtu mmoja aingie Narok akiwa na hiyo shida, kwa sababu akiingiza Narok ile negative tuko naye tutakuwa sasa na positive na itakuwa a hotspot. Kwa hivyo nyinyi tumeweka katika mlango, mkumbuke ya kwamba kuwekwa kwa mlango uko na jukumu kubwa ya kuchunga wale wako ndani na kuzuia yule mtu ambaye hatakiwa ingie ndani kuingia.
But it is a precarious situation in Wajir County, where livestock traders continue to use the porous Kenya-Somalia border to access the Horn of African nation. Wajir Governor Mohamed Abdi is saying the state of affairs is exposing area residents to the deadly disease. The concerns coming after 5 positive cases were recorded in the area over the past 24 hours following an analysis of 9 suspected cases of persons who were intercepted at the Riba border point in Wajir sub-county.
2 of the 5 cases that tested positive in the last 24 hours were with the 4 earlier intercepted at Diff, but managed to escape the police roadblock and made their way to Wajir town unnoticed. The other 3 were on their way back from Mogadishu, Somalia, on a similar livestock trade and were intercepted at Riba of Wajir East sub-county.
Elsewhere, Kirinyaga County Woman Representative Wangoi Ngirishi want vulnerable communities within the region provided with relief supplies in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic.
Waanze kuleta chakula kwa sababu chakula inapelekwa huko kwa semi-arid. Lakini wakumbuke Kirinyaga County pia tuko na semi-arid ambayo iko pande ya Mwea ya downstream, ambako pia watu wako na njaa mingi sana, na wale ambao hawako kazini, makazi zimeenda chini.
Meanwhile, Bungoma Anglican Bishop George Mechumo is calling on the government to reconsider easing restrictions on social gatherings and allow controlled services in churches.
Right now, we are fighting the pandemic called coronavirus, and we do not want the attention to be diverted to go to other issues other than the thing that is happening right now, for the sake of the unity of the country and also for the peace of this country.
And the saga surrounding the fate of 7 Kenyans currently holed up at the border of Kenya and Somalia since March took a new twist after a civil society group threatened to institute legal proceedings. Muslim for Human Rights, through its chair, Caleb Khalifa, has written to Internal Security Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i, compelling him to intervene and secure the entry of Kenyans stuck at the border post.
Na serikali ya Kenya lazima ifanye mikakati iwarudisha watu kwa haraka vile itakavyowezekana. Na ikiwa patashindwa kuwarudisha kwa muda fulani, sisi hatuna budi tutakwenda kotini kupata uamuzi wa mahakama.
And Samburu West Member of Parliament Naisula Lesuda has donated 10,000 masks in efforts aimed at cushioning her constituents from the coronavirus disease. Through the Naisula Lesuda Foundation, the legislator said she acquired the masks locally, even as she called on the political class to put politics aside and focus on how to cushion their people from the adverse effects of coronavirus.
Hatutaweza kupigana na hili janga kibinafsi. Tungeomba kwamba wale watu wote ambao wangependa kutusaidia ili tuweze kufikia haswa wale ambao hawajiwezi, kwa sanitizers, kwa masks, kwa sabuni, hata kwa maji na kwa chakula. Tungewaomba sana waweze get in touch na sisi kama Samburu West constituency.
Finally, Muguka traders from Embu County have been warned that failure to follow government guidelines and directives would force the government to ban their trade. Embu County Commissioner Abdullahi Galgalo says there remains a high risk if the traders fail to observe guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health.
Na waomba kwa unyenyekevu, mujue kuwa wakati munapeleka miraa nje ya Embu, munarudi hapa baada ya kuchanganyika na wale watu. Na waomba sana madriver wetu na wale wanaofanya hiyo kazi ya miraa wakienda kule, tafadhali mujihadhari ili msituletee corona.
COVID-19, shock and consternation has greeted the attitude displayed by a section of Kenyans who operate with reckless abandon, oblivious of the threat posed by the deadly COVID-19. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe has particularly scoffed at the levels of indiscipline and defiance to protocols instituted by the state to contain coronavirus spread. According to Kagwe, the latest figures show the country may not be out of the woods anytime soon, especially with ensuing behaviors. Caroline Kamau with the details.
Last week, the government gave a green light to restaurants in the country to reopen, albeit under strict measures aimed at maintaining social distancing to prevent the spread of coronavirus. This after their closure in March, soon after the country recorded her first coronavirus case. But as Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe observes, Kenyans have taken advantage of this, openly disregarding regulations in place.
It is true that it has been abused. It is a fact of life that people have been going to pubs or to eateries. They order one sausage with 2 beers. They eat that one sausage. Anakula hiyo sausage moja na bia mbili. Anatoka hapo, anaingia hoteli ingine. Huko anakula bia mbili ingine na sausage ingine moja. Anaingia ingine, anauliza chungwa. Ati sasa ni dessert. Now, my friends.
A tough talking Kagwe noting that this is making it difficult for the government to ease restrictions instituted.
You start taking steps. Let not the same individuals start complaining that, you are going backwards and forwards. That's the challenge that you come. The Ministry of Health doesn't seem to know what it is doing because it makes 2 steps forwards and then 1 step back. If that is the case, so be it. What we cannot allow is a situation where we begin to threaten our people just because of some few people who honestly cannot behave.
Indeed, the latest figures justify the minister's point of view, given that the country has now recorded its highest figures yet in just 24 hours.
Matter is, where we are right now, you are either with Kenyans or you are against us. When you are against us is when you expose other Kenyans. You cannot be behaving totally normally and then looking at every other Kenyan trying so hard and expect that you are going to be applauded for your action.
And there is the concern that the situation might even get worse in the coming days. He, however, does not regret the decision to lift the ban on restaurants, however, saying that the government will not hesitate to announce more stringent measures that will help deal with the situation.
I do not regret, because the idea, it came from a good place, and it is not a Mutahi Kagwe decision. These are people who are used to working in a hotel, working in a butchery, working in an income-earning facility that do not need government help. They don't need government help usually. So the idea is, why do we are trying so hard not to transport people who usually don't need help to become people who need welfare.
Caroline Kamau reporting for Channel 1 News.
Now, on a separate matter, hundreds of families from Budalangi constituency in Busia County have been displaced, while thousands have been forced to seek shelter in higher grounds as ongoing rains pounding the region continue to wreak havoc. And with the weatherman issuing a grim outlook, area residents are calling on authorities to find lasting solutions to the perennial floods problem in the region. Achola Simon reports.
The clouds menacingly tower over Budalangi. So imposing, they seem to sarcastically admire the trail of destruction underneath.
Maji imeenda na vitu vyangu, nyumba yangu imeanguka yote. Sina chochote, sina kitu, hata njaa pia nauma, sina chochote, vitu vyote vimeenda.
Tuna maafa, pale tunaweza zika watu wetu, hata wakikufa leo tumezika mwingine kwa maji. Tunachimba, tunazoa maji, tunaweka mawe. La pili, tunahofia hizi ugonjwa yenye iko ya corona hii itazidi kutumaliza kabisa, juu hata maji ya safi yenye tunaweza tumia hakuna. Kwa mama na watoto, hata saizi nimetoka huko kwa milima kutafuta ng'ombe zangu na bibi na watoto, siku mbili sijawaona.
In the villages, locals work through the floods with every available means in literal exodus to the higher grounds. This has been the new normal over the last few days as the area residents come to terms with the raging floods. Thousands have been displaced and there's literally no silver lining on the clouds. The most affected villages include Mau Mau, Budalangi, Harambe and Nyambare. Local wants clean water, nets and drugs, but also want the government to work on a long-term solution that will check the flooding menace.
Wanaanza wakakuja kutoa watu katika maboma zao wakisema daiki inaanza ati watawalipa. Wakawa kwamba wamekadiria kulipa kiwango fulani cha mwenye mahali pale amekaa ambapo daiki ilikuwa ipitie.
Kulingana walikuwa wanachukua mashamba, watu wanataka kutengeneza daiki, watu wahame wanunue area zenye ziko juu, lakini kulikuwa na ukora ndani. Juu ile pesa walikuwa nalipa haiwezi tosha kukugurisha hapo uende utafute shamba fulani na ujenge. Sasa hapo haikuenda na watu vizuri, kuna wale wajalipwa mpaka leo.
Busia is amongst the 29 counties hard hit by floods in the country, even as the weatherman warned the situation is set to continue in the coming weeks. Achola Simon, reporting for Channel 1 News from Busia County.
Well, that report by Achola Simon brings us to our first break here on Channel 1 News Hour. Don't go too far. We'll be right back.
Education is key. Education. To develop a nation. Education. Giving every learner the material for learning. KICD. Every stage from ECD. KICD. Shule ya msingi na ya upili. KICD. Mahitaji maalum na walimu. KICD. For your curriculum. KICD.
The Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, nurturing every learner's potential.
And welcome back. Now moving on, the government of Somalia has promised to cooperate with Kenyan agencies in the probe into aircraft crash that killed 6 people on Monday. The undertaking comes after Nairobi wrote to Mogadishu to investigate the unclear circumstances under which the light aircraft came down in its airspace. Somali President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo made a phone call to his Kenyan counterpart Uhuru Kenyatta Tuesday morning, expressing regret over the tragic incident. Safin Achingoma with the details.
Kenya and Somalia have agreed on a joint probe into a plane crash that occurred on Monday involving a Kenyan cargo plane. In a telephone call to President Uhuru Kenyatta on Tuesday, Somalia President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo expressed regret into circumstances surrounding the crash and disclosing that he had instructed his country's civil aviation authorities to immediately mount an investigation into the crash of the aircraft, which was supporting humanitarian operations in the country. President Kenyatta has welcomed President Farmajo's invitation to Kenya's civil aviation authorities to join in the investigation into the aircraft crash, emphasizing the need to swiftly but thoroughly conclude the process. In a statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, President Farmajo invited the Kenya civil aviation authorities to team with their Somalia counterparts with a view to complete the investigations expeditiously. This undertaking from Farmajo coming after Nairobi wrote to Mogadishu demanding swift investigations into the incident, warning that it could harm humanitarian aid deliveries in Somalia. In light of the incident, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, working with other agencies, noted that it shall keenly monitor the investigation of the tragic incident and will collaborate with all to bring closure and resolution to the incident. For Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Acheng Oma.
And away from that, high-ranking health ministry officials have been put to task by members of parliament over how monies set aside to boost the war on COVID-19 were utilized, amid allegations that part of the 1 billion shillings kitty cannot be accounted for. Health Permanent Secretary Susan Mochache maintains that the matter has been blown out of proportion as preliminary scrutiny shows that there are no monies that have been lost. Among the issues the lawmakers sought answers for include allocation of 42 million shillings and another 4 million shillings for ambulances, tea and snacks respectively.
Public uproar greeted expenditure released by the Ministry of Health over its operation in a span of 2 months. At the center of this outcry are allegations of misuse of funds set aside for the fight against COVID-19. Born out of this, the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Health has weighed in and wants the ministry to clear the air over the matter. Health PS Susan Mochache, who appeared before the committee on Tuesday, expressing regret over the direction the matter has taken. Mochache, who fielded questions from members of parliament, was particularly apologetic over the manner in which information has been relayed to the public. The PS, however, told the Sabina Chege-led committee that out of 1 billion shillings allocated by the Treasury, some monies had been allocated to the Foreign Affairs Ministry to facilitate the support of students in COVID-19 epicenter in Wuhan and China. She says a further 75 million shillings was channeled to the Ministry of Defense, while another 10 million shillings was given to the National Youth Service towards provision of security at isolation centers. According to Mochache, Kenyatta National Hospital has been allocated 150 million shillings to equip and provide additional beds to Mbagathi Hospital. Recruitment of 568 human resource health staff at Kenyatta University Referral Center was allocated 245 million shillings. It also emerged that 288 staff members at Mbagathi Hospital will be employed for 1-year term contract at a total of 125 million shillings, while 1,059 county staffs will be employed at a total cost of 498 million shillings. According to the PS, a request has been made to the Treasury to provide 300 million shillings for masks to address the issue of shortage of masks. Amid concerns over the alleged exorbitant quarantine fees, Mochache noted that the government was working on modalities to settle all quarantine fees so as not to prohibit Kenyans from undergoing testing. As of May 4, 2020, counties such as Nairobi, Kisumu, Uasin Gishu, Mombasa, Kilifi, Wajir, Busia, Machakos, Trans Nzoia and Kericho had been given the green light to test for COVID-19. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Still on health matters, Murang'a County has launched a unique intensive care unit as part of administration's effort to enhance its preparedness in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. The 35-bed capacity facility, which was constructed in a record 19 days, will offer free services for patients admitted at the ICU for the next 3 months.
Physicians. Tuesday, the 5th of May, marked a new dawn for the residents of Murang'a County as they witnessed the launch of one of the largest intensive care units in Mount Kenya region.
This ICU has everything. If there is any small item which has not arrived, it might be only because of the border issues with corona.
Constructed at a cost of 25 million shillings, the 35-bed capacity ICU was completed within 19 days, short of the 21 days deadline. The ICU is equipped with 35 beds, 15 ventilators, as well as dialysis machines and physiological monitors. While the intensive care unit is divided into different sectors, we are standing inside the high dependency unit, whereby one is taken just after they are taken out of the intensive care unit. Other sections include the pediatric section, the isolation section, and the dialysis section. Dr. Kanyi offers an insight into the operations at the facility.
With the bed is also attached, there should be a suction machine, like you can see one here. In case a patient has aspirations or circulations, they need to be sucked. That's used for that. Then we have the monitor there. The monitor is to monitor how the patient is doing in terms of breathing, in terms of the heartbeat.
Dr. Margaret Muyoro, head of Senior Critical Care Unit, says the county administration has already recruited 35 critical care nurses through a competitive process.
And I can testify that the nurses which will be working here, they are highly qualified, registered and registration by the Nursing Council. We did an interview like 4 times last week, and we are able to get 35 critical care nurses. Some of them are from all the way from Nairobi. I don't want to mention the facilities, but they are inclusive of everyone from this Republic of Kenya.
The county governor Wajir saying the county will have a functional cancer center by December as part of his administration efforts to improve healthcare in the region.
So we put in place a process whereby we are immediately after this, because we really want to make this a center of excellence. We are starting, and I don't mean a cancer unit, a cancer hospital. 200 beds, fully fledged, and it doesn't matter the cost, and we must present that cancer hospital to cancer patients before the end of this year.
Well, it is a ray of hope to the residents of Murang'a County, as they'll not have to go all the way to Kenyatta National Hospital to seek intensive care unit services, as this has now been brought to their doorsteps at the Murang'a Level 5 Hospital. Reporting for Channel 1 News from Murang'a County, I'm Sarafina Robbie.
Well, thank you so much, Sarafina Robi, for that report. Now, the number of coronavirus-related deaths around the world has surpassed 250,000, according to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University. United States remains the country with the highest number of fatalities, accounting for almost 70,000. Italy has over 29,000 deaths, while the United Kingdom has nearly 29,000 deaths. The number of confirmed cases now stand at over 3.6 million, while nearly 1.2 million people have recovered from the disease.
Some 252,957 people around the world have now died from COVID-19, according to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University. The number of confirmed cases exceeds 3.6 million, while nearly 1.2 million people have recovered. More than $8 billion have been pledged to help develop a coronavirus vaccine and fund research into the diagnosis and treatment of the disease. This coming as the World Health Organization says 108 potential COVID-19 vaccines are in development around the world, according to documents posted on its website. 8 of the potential vaccines have been approved for clinical trials. Meanwhile, at least 1.21 million cases of coronavirus have been recorded in the United States, including 68,925 deaths, according to Johns Hopkins University's tally. On Monday, they recorded 22,247 new cases and 1,240 deaths. And Italy is among countries in Europe and around the world that began cautiously easing lockdowns imposed to curb the spread of the coronavirus. The daily number of coronavirus deaths registered in Spain remained below 200 for a third consecutive day, the country's health ministry said. The overall coronavirus death toll in the country rose to 25,613. And indigenous leaders in Brazil have asked the World Health Organization to set up an emergency fund to help protect their communities from the coronavirus. In a letter to WHO, the group asked for help to provide personal protective equipment that is unavailable to health workers in tribal reservations and villages. Malaysia and India are among countries in Asia that began to ease parts of their lockdown starting on Monday. Elsewhere, New Delhi authorities have imposed a 70% tax on the retail price of alcohol after social distancing violation occurred when liquor shops opened for the first time in 5 weeks on Monday. For Channel 1 News, I am Emily K. Bade.
And still on the topic of COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic has disrupted normal life, with children being the most affected by the radical measures issued by the government to control the spread of the deadly virus. For children with disabilities who have had to live with the pre-existing vulnerabilities, the measures have disproportionately affected them. But how best can you implement the guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health among this vulnerable
depends on the disability that they have. For example, for some children, they have difficulty bringing their hands together, so it's important for the caregiver to initially wash their hands for the 20 seconds and then help your child wash their hand, depending on whether they're able to bring their hands together or not. You can clean each hand individually with an alcohol-based sanitizer. Now, we know that the social distancing is difficult for children who need supports on everyday care. So if you're having someone coming in to help your child within the house, they have to come in with a mask and they have to sanitize their hands as they come into their household, as they're taking care of your child's special needs. Now, the other thing is, how do you plan on continuation of care? Because your child may have an underlying heart disease, have epilepsy, the disability, or even chronic lung disease. It's very important that you keep in touch with your doctor. Do not miss your appointments, just so that we make sure that your drugs, for example, if it's your epilepsy medication, that you have those and you have enough for refills, and making sure that you coordinate with your doctor how to get that medication to you so that your child does not get a seizure. And then the other thing is about your therapies. We know that children with disabilities have occupational therapy that they're going for, speech therapy that they're going for, and even behavioral therapy. And we don't want the parent to feel the burden of having to take care of all this by themselves in the house. So it's important to come up with a plan with your therapist, whether you're going to do this where you have a consultation, where you go to see your therapist. And even there are now new ways of doing this where you can go on phone and WhatsApp videos. You can have a home program set up by your therapist, so we cannot neglect the care of your child so they do not fall behind due to this pandemic.
Next episode of Elena's Ghost.
Well, how do you like it?
There she is. Now stop her. We have to get the baby back.
No, I don't.
The van's been following me for quite a while now. I'm gonna end this once and for all. Well, I want to give her another scare, but really serious. I want to remind her mother who I am, and to know better than to mess with me. I'm warning you. If you don't give the baby back that you've stolen, my soul will forever haunt you wherever you go.
Welcome back. A senior Kenya Forest Service officer is nursing serious injuries after he was attacked during an eviction exercise in Kirisia Forest in Samburu County. The latest development coming as the Kenya Forest Service intensified efforts to reclaim the country's forest cover.
It has been a race against time by the government and environmentalists to reclaim the country's forest cover, with continued degradation blamed for adverse weather patterns in the country. And as part of efforts to realize the aspirations, government principal secretaries are this week taking advantage of the long rains to plant trees in different parts of Nairobi County.
Because we haven't treated our environment kindly, so it is hostile, it's complaining. It is upset with us. We have to do something urgently.
600 seedlings were planted today at the Wangari Maathai corner in Karura Forest during the exercise that saw officers from the Kenya Forest Service under the leadership of its Chief Conservator of Forest Julius Kamau partner with other stakeholders as part of the national tree planting campaign that has seen 1 million seedlings planted across the 107 forest stations in the month of April alone. The exercise is among a number of tree planting activities scheduled to take place during this week within Nairobi County, where the Ministry of Environment and Forestry has mobilized principal secretaries to champion tree growing at designated green spaces in the county.
And therefore, what we are urging Kenyans is, if every Kenyan of the 45 million was plant a tree, a single tree, marking your birthday during this season, we are able to push this country to more than 10%, even before 2022.
This, even as a senior Kenya Forest Service officer was seriously injured in the course of his duties in Samburu County. Chief Inspector Geoffrey Okey was addressing people who had recently settled in Tamiyoi area when he was ambushed by a knife-wielding Moran who severed parts of his right hand.
Wengi
but wakati waliona askari wamekok bunduki, kila mtu alianza kutapakaa akitoroka hapa na pale. Yeye akiwa moja hapo, lakini wakati askari walikok niliwaambia don't shoot.
The suspect was among a group of about 50 Morans who were opposing government's directive that people should vacate the forest after persons who were living in the area left the forest voluntarily to pave way for tree planting and conservation. Kenya Forest Service officers and other stakeholders that attended this event here today, the message is one and one alone. Let us heal nature so that nature can take care of us. Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News, Nairobi.
Well, thank you so much, Yusuf Farah, for that report. Now, away from environmental matters, the hearing of a case where Kilifi Deputy Governor Gideon Saburi is accused of failing to self-quarantine over COVID-19 disease will now be heard on 4th of June after the prosecution applied for more time to conclude investigations. Saburi is out on bond after a Mombasa court granted him bail.
Led by Senior Counsel Edgar Mlamala, the prosecution team cited challenges in conclusion of the investigations, including dusk to dawn curfew and partial lockdown, which they say has essentially restricted movements between Kilifi and Mombasa counties. Resident Magistrate Christine Ogweno granted a prayer adjourning the case to 4th June of 2020.
I will therefore allow the prosecution time to enable the investigators secure all relevant material they intend to supply upon the defense for trial. I will also allow the defense's application and direct the investigating officer to supply on or before the pretrial date all documents as requested by the defense through Mr. Kithi and itemized in the handwritten proceedings of today as Roman number 1 to 7. Parties by consent hereby agree to return for pretrial on the 4th of June 2020.
The defense team, led by Senior Counsel George Kithi, accused the prosecution of taking too much time in concluding the investigations. The defense team want the prosecution to avail before the court a list of samples applied to Kemri on 18th of March the year 2020, any signed documents declaring samples to Kemri for testing, as well as a list of reagents used to conduct evaluation of the purported samples taken from the accused.
The position remains that Deputy Governor was never tested by Kemri on 18th of March, so that on 21st March the results. He is never tested. Number 2, he never submitted himself to Kemri for any test to be done. But number 3, and what is important and why we want to do our own audit, is because as at the time the country never had a formula to test COVID-19, because we started receiving our first patient on 13th of March. By 5th of March, there was nothing.
The deputy governor was charged for willingly exposing himself in public while suffering from an infectious disease without taking proper precautions, contrary to Section 28A of the Public Health Act, Cap 242 laws of Kenya, charge that he has since denied. On April 16th, the year 2020, Saburi was granted a 200,000 shillings cash bail by Principal Magistrate Elvis Michieka and ordered to surrender his travel documents, besides not contacting witnesses. He was also ordered to self-quarantine himself for 14 days. Reporting for Channel 1 News from Mombasa County, I'm Michael Mondiga.
Now, away from the corridors of justice, residents of Ngarua in Laikipia County are up in arms over rising cases of insecurity in the area. The distressed locals claim that attacks are being perpetrated by livestock raiders from a neighboring county who invade at will despite heavy security presence. Details of these and other highlights in the County News Roundup. Residents of Ngarua in Laikipia County are a worried lot. Their troubles emanate from cases of attacks from bandits that have been on the rise in recent times. This happening despite heavy presence of security officers in the region.
Na tumeapili mara nyingi kwa serikali kuhusu hii tatizo. Kwanza waingie hiyo sehemu walete utulivu. Pili, mpaka siku ile mambo ya mipaka itatatuliwa baina ya Tana River na Kitui, mauaji inayoendelea haitakoma. Ningeomba serikali kwa haraka, baada ya kuleta utulivu, walete mikakati ya ni vipi tutaenda kutatua matatizo, ugomvi ya mpaka baina ya Kitui na Tana River.
Meanwhile, a section of the clergy from Athi River, Machakos County has decried tough economic times being experienced in the country. The group says due to the directives put in place by the government banning social gathering in efforts to curb the spread of COVID-19, Members of the clergy in informal settlements have been facing financial constraints as they depend on church donations and offerings to make a living.
There is a lot of a challenge, especially for the man clergy at such a time, because the income that used to come to church is no longer coming. And most of the members have really gone home because of isolation.
Elsewhere, a lobby group in Thika, Kiambu County, has opposed a petition filed by Thika Town Member of Parliament Patrick Wainaina that seeks to renew the land lease for Del Monte so as to save jobs of at least 6,500 employees. Kandara Residents Association and representatives of slum dwellers has questioned the legislators' move, terming it as questionable and self-serving.
So they want the survey to be done. Why? Because the land that we had claimed belongs to the public is already in the right place, in the maps and what have you. They have hidden it. They want the land done forensic audit. Why? Because when you carry out the audit on the land belonging to Del Monte, they will find the stolen land would have been regularized.
And Embakasi North Member of Parliament James Gakuya has decried the demolition of structures at Kariobangi sewer plant, saying the move has left thousands of families homeless. The legislature termed the move as uncalled for, especially during the coronavirus pandemic period when Kenyans are faced with harsh economic realities.
Kuna official notice ambayo imepeanwa. Hii ndio ile mnasikiaga tu roadside instructions. Kwa sababu watu hawezi kuja kuambia watu muhame baada ya siku 3. Unajua namna ile kwamba hii jambo ya ubomoaji imetendeka ni mambo ya kinyama.
The Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation, however, says the move to recover the land was part of ongoing efforts by the government to progressively repossess from unlawful and illegal occupants the public utility land set aside for the establishment of the Kariobangi Sewerage Treatment Plant. The ministry says the process will pave way for the full implementation of the sewerage improvement project outlined in the Nairobi Integrated Urban Development Master Plan.
Next on Corner.
KICD, every stage from ECD. KICD, shule ya msingi na ya upili. KICD, mahitaji maalum na walimu. KICD,
The man still exists.
Are you disappointed? What are you doing here? Wow, never join a welcoming committee. Harassment suits from stewardesses? Airline crew. And get with the program. Chorus Nasindi is a gentleman.
She woke up this morning. I was with her.
That's great news.
What do you think about Friday night fights?
It will help the boys keep out of trouble.
It's in our best interest that I take part. I'm going to milk it for all it's worth. How?
The Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, nurturing every learner's potential.
Welcome back. Now let's talk business, where investors with the local bourse lost 173 billion shillings worth of paper money as coronavirus pandemic led to panic selling. Listed firms also lost 14% of their value last month, according to the Capital Markets Authority. CMA says foreign investors dominated market activities between January and March, accounting for more than 80% of all transactions.
Even before the coronavirus, the Nairobi Securities Exchange was on a free fall, with market capitalization plunging from a high of 5.2 trillion shillings in 2013 to the current 2.2 trillion shillings. The poor performance has been attributed to bad economic environment, leading to mass exodus by most investors. The market has been on a dry spell with no major initial public offer in the last 7 years. This has led to a significant drop in shares value, where investors have lost 173 billion shillings as a combination of factors including coronavirus outbreak led to panic selling. According to the Capital Markets Authority, the value of listed firms at the bourse fell by 14.5% from 2.3 trillion shillings in March 2019 to 2 trillion shillings registered at the end of March 2020. The quarterly market soundness report says average foreign investor participation during the quarter averaged 61.2%, which is a 2% decrease from 63% recorded in quarter 4 of 2019. The Kenyan market continues to be highly driven by foreign participation as they seek higher yields in alternative assets within emerging markets. In the quarter under review, net foreign portfolio levels amounted to a total outflow of 844 million shillings compared to a total inflow of 262 million shillings during the quarter 3 of 2019. CMA says it is in talk with several companies who have shown interest in listing on the market.
On a separate matter, Kenya will know the extent of damage caused on food crops by the raging desert locust invasion in a month's time. Agriculture Principal Secretary Hamadi Boger says a team of experts is currently assessing the situation as heavy downpour in various parts of the country brings to a stop area spraying of insecticides. 500 million shillings has already been spent to contain the insects.
The presence of locusts has been reported in more than half of the counties since the initial invasion in December last year. Swarms of the pest, which are projected to grow even bigger in size, are still ravaging crops and vegetation in Isiolo, Samburu, Marsabit, Laikipia, Turkana, Baringo, Mandera, Tharaka Nithi and Wajir counties, threatening food security for animals and humans. The government has partnered with the World Bank and the Food and Agriculture Organization to hire experts to assess the destruction caused by the pest.
We now have planes here. We now have surveillance systems here. We now have helicopters that are supporting with surveillance, especially in the areas where we have desert locust. We now have trained quite a lot of ground teams.
Principal Secretary Hamadi Boga says the ministry is also considering contracting Egerton University's Tegmeo Institute to work alongside other agencies to be hired by FAO.
It's a socio-economic analysis that in the ministry we can't do on our own, but maybe in the next 1 month or so we'll have recruited a company. From our side, we wanted to work with Tegemeo Institute of Egerton University to do the analysis and give us the feedback. But FAO are also recruiting another agency.
However, the heavy rains currently reported in several parts of the country have threatened to completely halt aerial spraying.
Logistics of chemicals from Japan, where the source of some of the chemical is, has been a challenge because of the grounding of aircrafts. So now we have to use the sea route, so it takes a little bit longer. So we have to plan better so that we don't run out of stock.
Experts are warning that the first generation of locusts bred in Samburu, Isiolo, Wajir, Mandera and Marsabit could begin mass breeding.
You got another challenge now to deal with. This challenge is because of the vastness of the areas that we are dealing with. It is not so easy to now easily find these swarms. So they are there, but you don't obviously meet them. You not obviously find them on the road. So you must therefore intensify surveillance so that you ensure nothing remains in the bush.
According to the latest report by FAO, the current situation in East Africa remains extremely alarming as more swarms form and mature in northern and central Kenya and in Ethiopia.
Say winds now start moving northwards, like what we project actually. We'll have all these locusts going, but it will be somebody else's problem. And we don't want it to be somebody else's problem, so that's why we are dealing with it. Yeah, but if winds were to also keep on coming, probably south or something from Somalia, then they will be here. And that will be a wave, actually.
Regionally, IALA approved the East African Community supplementary budget of 49 billion shillings for the financial year ending June 2020 to fund its additional expenditure for priority projects and programs that were hitherto unfunded. Regina Manyara-Gitao reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now, the construction timeline of the Lamu Port South Sudan-Ethiopia transport corridor is well on course despite the coronavirus pandemic that has impacted on the progress of the project. According to the contracted China Communications Construction Company, all workers have been directed to move into the camp to reduce the risk of infection as completion of the first 3 berths near completion.
From above, the layout of the first 3 berths at the Lamu port is clearly visible as the 2.5 trillion shillings project begins to take shape. The Lapset Corridor project plan includes a 32-berth port, transportation hubs for railway, highway and international airports in Lamu, Isiolo and Lodwar, an oil pipeline from South Sudan, Uganda and Ethiopia to Lamu port, an oil refinery and 3 resort cities in Isiolo, Lamu and Turkana. However, despite the coronavirus outbreak that has forced the government to impose partial lockdowns and defined curfew hours, construction of the port project has proceeded smoothly as workers on the site embark on measures aimed at reducing the risk of COVID-19 infections.
At first, when this camp was closed, most of them didn't know why this camp was closed. But when the COVID-19 disease spread all over Kenya and many cases being announced, it's when most of them came to realize the reason as to why this camp was closed.
At the site, each worker is required to wear personal protective gear as well as undergo regular temperature checkups.
We really appreciate their continual collaboration with us, making our work easier and accessible to areas that need our help. We therefore, on behalf of the Minister of Health, Lamu County, say thank you to the company.
Construction of the concrete placement of the last section of the vertical and horizontal beams in the 3rd berth has since been completed. Berth 3 project manager Mengo C says since confirmation of the first COVID-19 case on 13th of March, all workers were required to move into the camp to avert any possible infection that would have hampered the project implementation. The first 3 berths are being constructed by a consortium of companies led by China Communications Construction. Ronald Willie, News Hour Business.
And now in the sports arena, it is not only the athletes who have been forced to adjust during the coronavirus pandemic, but also their coaches. Some coaches believe that the virus has affected the ways their athletes have been training, especially athletes who train in groups.
Coaches have been heavily affected by the coronavirus pandemic, just as their own athletes. Some coaches believe that the virus has affected the ways their athletes have been training, especially those who train in groups. Patrick Sang, coach to world marathon record holder Eliud Kipchoge and world half marathon record holder Geoffrey Kamworor, believes delegating greater authority to his athletes following training restrictions created by the COVID-19 pandemic is the biggest challenge he has ever faced. Sang coaches a large group of athletes based out of a training group in Kaptagat, but government restrictions around group gatherings put in place in March meant athletes had to head home to their families and train alone. Dutch-based Bram Som, coach to a group of athletes led by 2017 World 1500 meters champion Faith Kipyegon, says it is important to stay focused on the circle of influence and not on the circle of concern during the crisis. Som insists the middle-distance athletes he coaches have largely been able to carry out long runs, interval and hill sessions as normal, but he has also introduced solo time trials to keep the athletes focused. Flexibility, he insists, is key.
Now, world number 1 Novak Djokovic has felt himself back training on court in Spain despite a ban still in place in the country over the use of sports facilities. Now, meanwhile, USA Women Football's team co-captains Alex Morgan and Megan Rapinoe have said they will appeal against their defeat in a lawsuit for equal pay with the men's national team.
Grand Slam champion Novak Djokovic has once again come under scrutiny after posting a video on Instagram showing him exchanging shots with another man at a tennis club in the coastal city of Marbella, where the Serbian has been staying despite a ban still in place in the country over the use of sports facilities. On Monday, Spain loosened some of the lockdown measures that had been in place since mid-March because of the coronavirus pandemic, allowing professional athletes to return to practice. However, sports facilities are supposed to remain closed at least until next week in most parts of the country, with the exception of training centers for teams in professional leagues in sports such as football. The Spanish Tennis Federation said in a statement on Monday that professional players in Spain were allowed to exercise by themselves or with a coach, but not yet on a tennis court. Late last month, Djokovic was criticized by a high-ranking Serbian official for spreading coronavirus misconceptions in Serbia. This came after he controversially claimed that he may reject a coronavirus vaccine if it is forced upon him in the future, admitting that he could skip tournaments if he is forced to vaccinate.
Well, that brings us to a close here on Channel 1 News Hour. Remember to maintain social distance, maintain hygiene, observe and adhere to the government's directive so as to curb COVID-19. For more news, check out our website at kbc.co.ke. My name is Jackie Wambiro. Our sign language interpreter this evening was Byron Abuli. Have a good night.
My dear listener, I greet you in the name of Jesus Christ. My name's Dr. Henry Kimani, the General Overseer of Calvary Revival Evangelistic Ministry. Today I pray that our faith will be lifted up and we shall be encouraged in Jesus' name. Allow me to share with us from the book of Ezekiel chapter 37 from verses 1 to verses 6. The book of Ezekiel chapter 37 is a very familiar scripture to so many of us. And I want us to bring out the truth, the revelation, the reality in Ezekiel 37, verses 1 to 6. And I believe God is going to bless us in Jesus' name. This is what my Bible version says. I felt the powerful presence of the Lord, and His Spirit took me and set me down in a valley where the ground was covered with bones. He led me all round the valley, and I could see that there were very many bones, and that they were very dry. Verses 3 says, He said to me, Mortal man, can these bones come back to life? He said, Prophesy to the bones. Tell these dry bones to listen to the word of the Lord. And verses 5 says, Tell them that I'm the sovereign Lord. Tell them that I, the sovereign Lord, am saying to them, I'm going to put breath into you and bring you back to life. I will give you sinews and muscles and cover you with skin. I will put breath into you and bring you back to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord. I want to pick on verses 3 and verses 4 that says, He said to me, Mortal man, can these bones come back to life? He said, Prophesy to the bones. Tell these bones to listen to the word of the Lord. I want to pray that today, in the name of Jesus, may we receive the grace and the anointing to prophesy over every dry bone that is in our lives right now. I pray that this grace and the authority to prophesy may be in the heart of every one of us in Jesus' name. Sometimes when we are faced with dry bones, and I don't want to get into details because of time, but sometimes when we are faced with hard situations that are likened to dry bones, the best thing for us to do is to prophesy to them, is to speak to them. I pray that in the name of Jesus, as a nation, as a family, as individuals, may we receive the authority to speak prophetically to every dry bone, every dry situation that we are faced with today in Jesus' mighty name. The Bible says, that he prophesied as he was told by the Lord. This is not the time to murmur and complain. This is not the time to cry about. This is the time for us to address our every dry bones in Jesus' mighty name. The Bible says, calling those things that are not as if they are. The Bible also says that the power of life and death is in the tongue. I pray that the Lord may anoint our tongues. He may anoint our tongues with the authority and the grace to release life where there are dry bones in Jesus' name. I know right now we are faced with a dry bone by the name COVID-19 pandemic. I know there are businesses that were making millions of Kenyan shillings, hundreds of thousands, and even maybe 100 shillings per day or per every opportunity. But I pray that the Lord may anoint our tongues, that the Lord may give us that prophetic unction to speak to our dry bones, to speak to them that they may come back to life in Jesus' mighty name. God is anointing our tongues heavily, and we are going to speak to every dry bone in our life in the mighty name of Jesus. Some stubborn situations in our lives are just waiting for us to speak to them, just like the way Prophet Ezekiel spoke to the dry bones. Let me pray with you right now. Father, in Jesus' name, we receive the unction to function in Jesus' name. We receive the power and the authority to speak to our dry bones right now in Jesus' name. We refuse to be intimidated. We refuse to be intimidated in Jesus' name. Father, I want to thank you for my viewer, for it shall never be the same again. For we have been lifted and strengthened to speak to our dry bones in Jesus' mighty name. God bless you, my dear listener, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Vera Beauty College.
Vera Beauty and Fashion College, with branches in Nairobi, Eldoret, Thika, and Meru. Did you know that we are a TVET approved institution? We offer courses in fashion design, interior design in soft furnishing, event decoration, flower arrangement, event planning, hairdressing, barbering and dreadlocks, beauty therapy, makeup, nail technology, spa massages, teaching skills, TOT, solo business management, and many more. Register now and visit our website on www.verabeautycollege.com. You can also call on 0725 923 550 Nairobi branch, 0728 087 689 Eldoret branch, 0722 227428 Thika branch, 0725 000 706 Meru branch. Vera Beauty and Fashion College, a TVET approved institution.
Top on Channel 1.
You never put up a fight, no. 'Cause in my kitchen, coconut, why don't you custard?
God will fight for you. It as easy for you see. Are your friend them you fi pray. Some no want nothing go right for you. We rise, so we rise. We rise.
Tech on Tech. This is a weekly program that takes into consideration technological concepts, breaks them down with a panel of experts. In today's program, we are going to be looking into understanding the domain name system or the domain name industry in this country. Sounds quite tech, but that's why we have this program for the panel of experts to break it down for us. In our panel of experts, we have Joseph Mara. Joseph Mara is from, he will tell us where he comes from because he needs to explain what KENIC is all about. Followed by Kelvin Masharia.
Yes.
I am told Kelvin Masharia is a registrar.
Yes.
So you will also explain
Yes.
to us what that is all about.
Yes.
And then we have Barak Otieno. Barak is an expert really in this topic. So he will also be telling us more about the domain name industry. Before we go on, we want to take you to Jane so that she can give us our social media handles and welcome the online community. Jane?
Thank you, Grace. A warm welcome once again to Take on Tech. My name is Jane Mamboy. We are glad you are with us this evening. Now, as aforementioned, tonight we are going to be helping you understand the domain name industry here in Kenya, get to know what it's about, what goes into the registration process, and how we are doing so far as a country, given that Kenya has been termed as one of the leading countries in Africa when it comes to the registration of web addresses. But what does that mean for us as a country? That is a discussion that we want to have right here on Take on Tech, and we welcome you to be part of this discussion using the hashtag TakeOnTech on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1 TV. My handle is the General Boy, and my colleague, you can find her as G Gedaiga on Twitter. Our SMS number is also up and running. 20154 is the number. Do leave a name indication as you send through your messages, questions, or comments that you may be having in regards to this discussion. But for now, let's get down into this discussion. Back to you, Grace.
Thank you, Jane. Barak, straight on to the discussion. What is the domain name system?
Thank you, Grace. The domain name system basically refers to a system of unique identifiers that identify organizations on the internet. The system is made up of names and numbers, as the name goes. On the naming side, for example, KBC is an organization. And when you are searching for KBC on the internet, you simply type the 3 letters KBC. But it's important for our viewers to know that the computer does not understand KBC. Behind the scenes, KBC is actually a number. It is similar to our phone books, where if someone wants to call me, my name is Barak, but I have a certain telephone number, which you can choose to memorize if you have a big amount of memory. But because most of us human beings, our memory is limited, it's always easy to identify with names. Other than just the name KBC, you may also want to know where KBC is located. So for example, when you see kbc.co.ke, it means that this company is located within the Kenyan jurisdiction. The CO means that it is a company. If KBC was a for-profit organization, then it would be kbc.or.ke. In some cases, the domain name system has developed nowadays. You can even have .xyz. XYZ means .anything. It's popular with the young population. So again, it's important for our viewers to know that different countries have different extensions. So when you see EU, it represents the European Union. When you see .eu. When you see .africa, it represents the African continent. So for us who are proudly African, as an African citizen, I would use .africa to tell the whole world that my business is actually in Africa. But if I wanted to be more patriotic, kujivunia kuwa Mkenya, I would use a .ke to actually show that I'm a Kenyan.
Very interesting, Barak. So .co is actually company.
Correct.
.or
is a for-profit organization. We have .info, a page for information. People like bloggers who just want to inform the general world what they are doing, you can have .info. If it is a network, like a computer network or organizations that have networks, you can use a .net, just to name a few.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Joe, we come to you. This domain name system, we have been told, yes, about the address, which is very interesting, Barack, because I didn't know that then it uses to place. It's like an address. Say if I want to come to KBC, then I will know it is somewhere that I can be able to locate. What, how does this domain name system work? And before you tell us that, I think you need to explain to the viewer what KENIC is in light of the discussion today.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Barack, also for shedding a bit of light about DNS. So she's mentioned
DNS is domain name system.
Yes,
okay.
Domain name system. Yes. First off, I'm from KENIC. KENIC is Kenya Network Information Center, and we are the registry of the .ke domains. Now,
okay. Simplify that. We are the registry.
Yes, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
I'm getting to that. Yes. Perhaps we start with the first question about how DNS works. As Barack said, DNS is like a phone book. You cannot memorize all the phone numbers that you have on a phone book, but to save them in a user-friendly way, you can save me as Joe on your phone because you can't memorize my number. So ideally, the DNS works like a phone book of internet addresses, what we call IP addresses, against naming system. So what happens is that the DNS, the domain name service, runs on a server. And the server, its job is just to receive requests of host names, or rather, what you go type KBC, then it resolves it to an IP address that then the computer is able to understand, and it's able to serve with a particular resource. Now, as KENIC, what we do, we are the registry, and how the DNS ecosystem is structured, especially for the Kenyan market, what we run is a 3R model. A 3R model consists of the registry at the top, which is KENIC, the registrar, and then the registrant. The registrant is the end user, the owner of the domain name. And
so, for example, kbc.co.ke is a registrant.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Because that is the user.
Yes,
or the
that
owner.
Is the end user. That is the owner of the domain.
Okay,
yes.
Correct.
Yes.
If I may step in before Joe continues. A registry is just like the office, the registrar of births. It keeps records.
We're Sharia house.
Sharia house. It just keeps records of all the names that are registered under .ke in Kenya.
So KENIC is the Sharia house
of domains.
.ke domains.
Yes.
Okay.
And probably to put that into better perspective, we have two types of domains. We have generic top-level domains, then we have country code top-level domains.
Yeah. Before you go to that, sorry, I think we interrupted you. You were explaining about KENIC being the registry.
Yes, yes.
And then working with
registrars.
Registrars.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And Kelvin here is a registrar, so he will tell us who a registrar is.
Yes.
Okay, go on.
Yes.
Go on
So,
about the two.
Yeah, so the mother company is called ICANN. I think Barack will expound on that. And then from there we have two types of domains. We have generic top-level domains and country code top-level domains. Now the generic top-level domains are the .coms, the .orgs, the .edu, all that. Then we have country code top-level domains.
Sorry, okay. Because we are trying to break this down. It's really sounding tech.
Okay.
Generic.
Yes.
.com.
Yes.
.org.
Yes.
.net.
.net.
Why are they called generic?
I believe as when ICANN started, from a global perspective, they did not delegate. Actually, if I explain country code top-level domains, you'll understand.
Okay.
Yes. Country code top-level domains have been delegated for each country to manage their own country code top-level domains. Like for Kenya, it's a .ke. South Africa will be .za, Tanzania will be .tz, Nigeria.ng, like that. So country code top level domains are domains that ICANN has delegated a specific country to manage on their own. So in this case for Kenya, it's KENIC that manages the .k country level domain. So the generic ones, on the other hand, are managed by different organizations, actually many different organizations, but that's the difference. So like for Kenya, when you have .ke at country code level, then we create sub-products, or what you'd call second and third level domains. What Bob was talking about, the .co.ke, the .info.ke, the .ac.ke, ideally.
So .ke is what you call first level.
Second level.
Second level.
That is second level. Yeah. If I may just add on what my colleague has said, and maybe to try simplify the language a bit. Generic is actually general purpose. Previously, they were called legacy domains. They started when the internet started. So, and they are managed by the organization that is the steward for global internet resources, which is called the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. But just to add to what he's saying, the difference between the general purpose domains and the country code names is that country codes are sovereign. It is the United Nations that decides a code for a country. So for example, the code for Kenya is KE and KEN. The reason why Kenya has KE is because Kenya, through the Kenya Bureau of Standards, sits on the International Standards Organization and is recognized as a territory within the United Nations framework. So that is the major difference. The global, each country, like Kenya cannot be told what to do with .ke. The government of Kenya, through the regulatory body and the people of the Republic of Kenya, that is the internet community, and even those who are not in the internet, determine the policies that govern .ke. But on the other hand, we cannot determine the policies that govern .com or .org, for example. That is outside our borders.
Our borders.
Yes.
And so KENIC then has that responsibility to safeguard the .ke, right?
Absolutely.
We'll come back to
Yes.
Kelvin,
Yes.
I know you have been quiet.
Yes.
Who is a registrar? Because we were told KENIC is the registry, like
Yes.
the Sharia house,
Yes.
that keeps all our birth certificates.
Yes.
And then that KBC,
Yes.
KBC.co.ke
Is the registrant.
is the
Registrant, yes.
because it owns
Yes,
that
yes.
that
The domain name,
the
or
domain name.
has requested for it to be registered and for them.
So you are in there in the
Yes.
as the registrar.
Yes.
Who is
Yes.
a registrar?
A registrar, as you have said, sits between the registrant and the registry. I think I would go back to explain the registry as the central information system that for that specific domain. So they gather all information, they register and document that this specific domain is registered under, let's say, Kelvin from Deep Africa, as Deep Africa is the registrar, and it's registered by KBC. Let's say, for example, kbc.co.ke. So my goal and my role within the 3R model is to market and to make sure that I'm pushing the .ke domains to the customers, because KENIC will be biased if they were to go out and become the registry. They cannot be the custodian and also the one going out to register the domain. So I think the registrar roles is to ensure that there is penetration of the .ke domains, to ensure that people get to know what KE domains, people get to know how they can use it. So my goal is to explain how a business, an organization, or an individual can benefit from the .ke domain, and I register them as a custodian, but I will still deposit the information that they will give me to with the registry. So there are several other registrars, I being one of them as deepafrica.com, but we have people, all this information is held by KENIC as a custodian. So you'll find one domain registered under one registrar, another registered under a different registrar, but the main registry is KENIC.
So all of you, when you register all these
Yes.
.or,
Yes. Yes.
.co.ke,
.sc.ke, ac.ke, yes,
Uh-huh.
all of them. Yeah.
ultimately that information
Yes,
has to
is
be
shared.
deposited with,
Yes, yes. With KENIC.
KENIC.
Yes.
Now I'm understanding
Yes.
why you're the Sharia.
Yes. Here, actually, I can't register on my own without his authorization as KENIC. Yes. I have to get the details from the client. I check the domain's availability. I request for necessary contact details, profile details that will help me manage the domain, and then share them with KENIC. Then KENIC registers, and if you go online and check, let's say kbc.co.ke, you'll get to see the person who registered. The registry will be KENIC. For all .ke domains, they will have one registry. That is to make sure that there is a central source of information in regard to the .ke domains. Yes.
If I may add, Grace, I think it's good for our viewers to know that the domain name business operates on a first come, first served basis. He has said that he has to check whether the name is available.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I may take a company like Mbukinya, which has existed for a long time, ferrying people from Nairobi to Western Kenya. If Mbukinya has not registered its name, I can register it. And they will have to look for me and negotiate with me. So I think for the businesses out there, it's important that they pay attention.
Yes.
When you come and it's already been registered, you have to negotiate with the person who has registered. That is just the law of how the domain name system operates.
Yes. Now I'll be the one talking to him. If let's say he was a customer wanting to register the domain, I will talk to him and check for him whether the domain is available or it has already been registered. I will request for his profile details and register the domain on his behalf. So anything that he wants to do with the domain, I will be in charge. Let's say I think we got to a further discussion. He wants to have hosting on the domain. I will be the one in charge of making sure that it's pointed to where he wants, that or providing an infrastructure for him to be able to manage the domain.
Okay, so for example, if I want, so we are saying that KENIC is like that Sharia house.
Yes.
So I walk into Sharia house.
Yes.
There are all those files
Yes.
there.
Yes.
And then Kelvin here is
Yes.
the guy sitting
Yes,
there.
yes, collecting data.
Collecting the
yes,
data.
yes, yes.
And telling me when I will get that birth certificate.
Yes,
or
yes.
whether it's available
Yes,
or not.
understanding your needs on what you need. Do you need a birth certificate? Do you need marriage certificate? Do you need company certificate? Yeah, I'll be the one to guide you in the process. After I have understood your need, I will register and then share the details with Kenny.
And then to add on to that, the information that is collecting about the registrant is what, in technical terms, we call it Whois information.
Yeah.
Whois. So that data is very important, and actually one of the things we've been trying to emphasize is that the registrants have a right to know and actually ensure that the registrar is keeping the correct information about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a Whois policy, and we've been trying to enforce it, and I think the Data Protection Act at the moment also safeguards that information. And what we'd like to tell business owners is that they need to ensure that the registrar has the correct information about them.
Yeah.
Okay, where is that information found? Is it available online? Like
Yes,
if I come onto the KENIC website, will I find that information?
Yes.
I think it's important for our viewers to understand that when you give a registrar like Kelvin, if I give him the responsibility to register for me barak.co.ke, it is my responsibility to make sure that the information that I give him is correct.
Yes.
One of the things we have observed is most of our companies don't even know who registered the domain name on their behalf. It's like my name is, I just ask anyone, the way we were buying SIM cards on the street anyhowly.
Yes.
And the problem is, if your domain name is used to perpetrate a crime, then there comes a problem. There is an issue of liability. Police can come looking for you. If, let's say, there are cyber criminals using your domain name to commit a crime, So it's very important for our viewers to know that when you give a registrar the responsibility to register a domain name, you have given the correct information,
yes.
and also you know your rights and responsibilities.
Yes.
And the system that Joy is talking about, Whois simply asks the question, who is online or whose information is online. So again, that is a critical part, either for the country code or generic for our viewers to be able to check and know what are the details about a particular domain names that are listed. And finally, I think Kelvin mentioned something important which our viewers also need to know. We have talked about the domain name. So inside the registrar, the domain name would be like the file that contains your name. But again, inside Sharia House, there are storage cabinets where particular files are kept. So that is what is called hosting. So a domain name is not enough to be online. You actually need to also buy a hosting package, which is
That
like
is
your
the
drawer online.
Yes.
Exactly.
The online capacity. Yes. And the hosting is what will enable you send emails, because the emails will not be stored on the domain; they will be stored on the drawer. Let's say you are registering a company, and there is, let's say, a change of directorship or change of management. You see, you need to surface Sharia House with a document. We have changed this management this year. We have changed this management next year. So the file itself, let's say, I would use an analogy, would be equal to the emails, and the emails will need a place to be stored online, and that's what we provide as a second service. That after you register the domain, you need hosting to make sure that if I send an email to you or if I send a document to Sharia House, they will find my specific file under the name Kelvin and store that file under that document under that file. So the hosting that we do provide enables you to send emails, enables you to have a website, enables you to have applications online, and with that, I'm sure it provides an unlimited potential for your business to explore. I think lastly, I would like to clarify about the Whois. I think I will not underestimate what Barak is saying, that it is important for you to provide critical details. I think there is a tendency, due to the growth of online spamming activity, for us to have a separate email account or phone number that we don't have, and we provide that when registering a domain. The problem with that is, if I want to communicate to you as the registrant, now from the registry, I will not find you. So you need to give me the exact email address that you can that I can provide you with, because a domain is a critical asset to you. Because once, let's say, the domain you have marketed, you have had a lot of effort in marketing the domain, it becomes synonymous to your business. In case you miss any communication from me as a registry, either to renew or to do something on the domain may be, for example, expire, and it may be available to be registered by someone else. So it's important to provide the correct profile details, that is contact details, postal code details, for me to be able to verify that this is a genuine email, this is a genuine phone number, that in case I want to contact you, I am able to reach you as a registrar. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
Now, Joe, just listening to what Kelvin has told us, I am just wondering, like, what is the value then of this local domain name system to the industry? But before you respond, we need to go to Jane to find out what's happening on our social media handles. Jane?
Thank you, Grace. I'm just going to go straight to it using the hashtag #TakeOnTech. We have Zach here who is asking, I'm just wondering if we have an agency that is mandated to regulate private ICT professionals, practices and standards and domain registration here in Kenya. Our guests are going to be able to address that question. We also have Martin, who is asking how does it work and what goes into the process of registering a domain address. I know we have touched on this a bit, but of course for the benefit of our viewer, we're going to be also tackling it again. And there's also Cosmos saying, how do you protect your domain address from being stolen by someone else? How do you protect your domain address from being stolen by someone else? That is Cosmos asking that on Twitter. So keep those questions coming in using the hashtag #TakeOnTech. Back to you, Grace.
Embakasi Utawala tuko locked, Ungem Utanyahururu Kasuku Massive,
Jeshi ya Nyeri Coast Maua Nakuru kwa locked mbaya,
Kigumo Ward na ambao wote wako ndani ya KBC Channel 1,
Akulaliki Wednesday bila the rev,
Mbotela Auta Idara Kitengela,
Kiambu County 33 Pipeline Meru anawakilisha,
Rongai Maboksa pale go down, Karatina Auta Mlolongo wana enjoy show, Lare Sub County Auta Githurai 45, Lanet Barracks tuko ndani yake, Okongo Auta Carnation Maragwa Seti
Nairobi
Thika wako locked mbaya sana,
watu wangu wa Nakuru Ngwaro
Auta Gilgil
live kutoka Mazeras Bahati Massive,
Embu Thika Massive,
Siaya Shikambi Kakamega Bungoma County,
Busia Boda
Kisumu City,
Malindi yote iko ndani ya the rev.
When I'm in Kenya, I tune in to the rave. Get your mind brave, focus, conscious.
Kenya,
East Africa.
Right.
Keep it locked.
Calling out to
Welcome back to Take on Tech, your weekly program that explores technological concepts. In today's program, we continue looking into how we need to understand the domain name industry in Kenya. And before the break, so we want to thank all our online contributors, but before we respond to them, I think before we went on break, we were talking to Joe to tell us what is the value of the local domain name system to the industry and say to the businesses, as Kelvin pointed out.
Okay. So from a high-level perspective, KENIC is a custodian of very critical internet infrastructure, and that in itself gives us a mandate to ensure availability and accessibility of the domain. So we ride by the value that we ensure that the domain name system, the .ke DNS, is 99% active. This is what we are passionate about keeping, and from a technical perspective, we ensure that, meaning that at no point will you be on .ke and then you go down. That we assure. And the fact that we are in Kenya, it means our infrastructure is local, meaning that despite whether your hosting is being done externally or on the cloud, your domain will resolve fast. And in case you have any challenges or any issues with your domain, or maybe your registrar and cooperative, we have a physical presence in Kenya where you can walk in and we'll be able to assist you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Say, as opposed to if you had a .com,
yeah. Yes,
that the registry is somewhere out
yes,
of this country.
Yes, you're correct. And also, sorry.
Yeah.
And also, we try to go by this phrase that buy Kenya, build Kenya. But it's really important because when you're on a .ke platform, when your domain is on .ke, you're not just promoting the brand Kenya, you're also promoting your brand and securing your brand as well. Because I can use the analogy of local companies, Safaricom, even KBC. Being on .co.ke, you gives you, basically people get to trust you more. Rather than if you're running kbc.com, they don't know where that organization is. But having a physical local .ke allows you to also secure your brand so that your customers can relate with you easily.
Okay. Now, let's respond to some of our questions that were raised by our viewers from the online community.
Yes.
And one of the questions is, what is the process of registering
a domain?
A domain name, and I think that is for you,
Yes,
as a registrar.
Yes, it's my responsibility to ensure to facilitate the process of registering a domain. And I think the first step is understanding the needs of the customer. Do they need .or.ke? Do they need .sc.ke? Do they need .ac.ke? And I think it falls it's a burden on me to understand if they are registering a school, they should not register .co.ke, because even people seeing the online, you don't expect a school to be yes, there are school companies, but for more visibility and acceptability, it's always good for them to have the correct extension, that is .sc for secondary and primary school and .ac for colleges and universities. So once I understand what kind of a domain they are looking for, whether is it for business, is it for profit organizations, is it a government agency, I'm able to advise the client that you don't need a .co.ke, you need let's say .sc.ke because it's a school. You don't need .co.ke because it's a for-profit organization. You need .or.ke. And once I have understood that, I will go online. This information is readily available on the registries, and what he was talking about, Whois search engines. Whois is just a platform for you to check who has registered this domain. So I will key in, let's say, kbc.or.ke. And once I key in the search engine, it will tell me whether the domain is registered or the domain is not registered. After I confirm, let's say, that the domain is not registered, I will give the feedback to the client that this extension is the best for you, one, and it's available for registration. After I advise them, we will have a negotiation on maybe the length of the domain also, because you don't want to have, let's say, Kenya Broadcasting Corporation.co.ke, because it may not be easier for your users or the visitors to your website to remember that. So I will advise them on the best way they can have the domain name set to ensure that it's easier, it increases searchability and also remembrance on the user's end. Once I have done that, I will request for profile details. This will be basically their name, their company name, and most importantly, the email address, an email address, and a phone number attached with a postal code. And I know most people do not have postal services. I think for that we do use a service by Posta Kenya called M-Post as a solution. But the most important details that you cannot miss on a domain will be the email address and the phone number. One, the email address will be the email that I will be using to communicate to you concerning that domain. So it must be an email that you have access to, an email that you own actually, because you don't want to have somebody register the domain for you and let's say maybe have mischievous activity or blackmail you in the domain. Because if you want to, any communication, even from Kenik, will be sent directly to that specific email that you provide. So it's very important, and I always emphasize to my customers that they must provide an email that they have access to, that is valid, and that they can easily access. The phone number will help me in case of I'm not able to, or they are not, I need fast response. It will help me as a registrar to just call them and let's say there's an action you need to take on this domain, kindly respond or kindly check on the same. And then the post office, in case of either of the two fails, I'll be able to send an email to them in case of anything that I need to do with the domain. So once they have provided that, I have a system on my end that helps me manage the client data. I can assure you the client, the information is privately held, and I am the only one who have access as a registrar, and I do not share the information with anyone else apart from KENIC as the registry.
All right.
Yes.
But this person who has asked that question,
yes.
where do they find you?
Now they can find
because
you.
They're asking you,
yes.
okay, they want to know the process, but where do they also find you?
Yes. Normally they would go to my website. Let's say deepafrica.com, deepafrica.co.ke, and once they go there, they can be able to search for the services that I provide in domain registration. And once they provide that, we have settled on the domain extension, the profile details. I create a profile on my end, and I'm able to process the invoice for them to pay, and immediately they pay, I have an automated payment system that automatically registers the domain, shares the details with KENIC, and registers the domain.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe if I may add to what he's saying, Grace, I think to the common mwananchi, sometimes it's easy to get confused.
Yes.
We have registrars, but also we have resellers.
Yes.
For example,
yes.
as Kelvin's friend,
yes.
I can decide that
yes.
I want to help him to sell his names.
Yes.
So I can also masquerade
yes.
or purport in the typical Kenyan style
yes.
that I'm a registrar.
Yeah.
But the difference between a registrar and a reseller is that a registrar is accredited by the Kenya Network Information Center, which is critical from a security standpoint that one of our listeners asked. And I think if you visit the KENIC website, you'll actually be able to see the names of the registrars that are accredited. And in addition to that, registrars also have pay a certain one-off license fee to the Communications Authority of Kenya, which is the regulator. So it's important to deal with accredited registrars to enhance your security. Otherwise, if you meet a reseller on the street and he disappears with your domain name and emails, then you'll be in a bit of trouble.
So, Barak, while you are on that, there was a question about the agency to regulate DNS, the domain name system. Do we have such a regulator?
Yes, actually within the Kenyan context, the domain name system is regulated by the Communications Authority, because the Communications Authority decides who manages .ke. For now, it has decided it is the Kenya Network Information Center, which is a public interest organization made up of representatives of the internet community. But in some countries, it's given to private entities to manage. Joe talked about delegation. Delegation means that you are given the responsibility on behalf of another organization. So I think it's important that our registrants understand that. So in terms of regulation, the domain name system in Kenya is regulated by the Communications Authority, and there are certain provisions within the law, Kenya Information and Communications Technology Act, which is a legislative instrument, which again guide the domain name industry in Kenya.
Okay. And I think there was also the question, and I think this one, Joe, you can respond. There was the issue of how do people protect their domain names from theft?
Of course, the first step to protecting your domain name is protect your brand. You see, okay. As we mentioned, we have so many sub-products. Okay, I know the business perspective, we look at it as products, but from the technical perspective, we look at them as second and third level domains. The .ke, the .co.kes. If you register your company, I'd advise you to just go ahead and register all of them to secure, to be safe. But at the same time, once you register and secure your domain, or in the process of registering, as you said, If you do a Whois search and discover that your domain has been taken up by maybe a reseller, mostly the people who do this are just to solicit money from me. They register the domain today, knowing that they're probably not even going to use it, but they just secure it so that the day that you'll come for it, they know they'll make a killing out of it. And we get so many of these cases, and what we have done is we have what we call alternative dispute resolution policy. This allows you to come and contest for your domain. Now there are aspects you look at, and we have a company secretary who's also engaged in the arbitration process. And if, let's say, you've registered your company with the Registrar of Companies, the government, and you can prove that this name, maybe through KIPI or through the company registrar, that this name belongs to you and you've secured it. What we do, we provide an opportunity for you to lodge a dispute. We invite all parties, and then we try to agree. If you can prove that this is your domain, then definitely the domain can be released to you. If for whatever reason we suspect anything, we also have arbitration companies and lawyers who can step in. Okay. But we provide an opportunity and a mechanism for you to recover your domain if it was taken. Besides that, we also protect the Whois information, the data that is collected by the registrars. We protect it, and we try to ensure that the information is correct.
Okay. Have we had a classic example of somebody
domain theft,
registering a domain name that does not belong to them, and wanting to use it for speculation purposes?
Yes, indeed. We've had such scenarios, which I may not mention here for legal reasons. Right. But we do get disputes. We even have international companies that want to get into the Kenyan market, and they want a local domain presence. But to find that somebody registered the company. It's like maybe even Amazon. Let me not say Amazon has gone through that, but as Amazon is getting into the country and they wanted a local DNS presence, and somebody else has registered, they have a right to contest for it unless they seek other settlement agreements outside. But if they present a genuine case to us, then we are ready to listen, and the policy guides on that, and the policy is available on our website as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I may just step in again, Grace, I think I need to highlight to our viewers that most of the security breaches are done through social engineering, people that actually observe us. And among the most targeted people are politicians. I think we have seen during seasons of campaign, websites for our politicians being defaced. And sometimes, and for Mwananchi, Kelvin mentioned the issue of making sure that the right information is used when you're registering your domain name. It's very important because sometimes you'll find that if, for instance, my name Barak has 2 R's, somebody can write to Kelvin with a Barak with a single R, requesting him to change where my website is hosted to a place of his own interest. And they can then deface that website the way they want. The way we see people just pouring paint on tarmac or tearing posters for politicians, that is exactly what happens on the online space. So it's very important that we have right information so that when a request is made, Kelvin is able to tell me, Barak, are you the one that has made this request? And if I tell him it's not me, then he quickly stops that request from being executed. So again, they are very simple things, but I think it's important that our users know that these are some of the tricks that that most cyber criminals like to follow. Yes.
I think I would add as a registrar, I think the other challenge that I have is cases of the domain being stolen is the case where the domain is not renewed. I think we need to mention that the domain is a service that is renewed yearly. Let's say if you register today, you will renew next year on 27th of January 2021. So it's an annual renewed service. Now, if you do not renew the domain, the domain may expire, because the registry do not want to have a list of domains that have not been renewed, because you renewing shows me as a registrar and the registry that you are using the service. And the registry do not want to have just a list of domains that are not being used, that are dormant. So the domains is renewed annually. So I would, let's say in the cases of what Barak is talking about, I would wait for a domain to expire, and maybe the registrant provided a wrong email. So when I send a renewal notification, when Kenik sends a renewal notification, when I call, I do not get you as a registrant. I do not have any other means of communicating to you. The domain will expire, and it will go into the free market to be registered by anyone else. The other scenario that we have is registering on behalf of someone, a case close to the reseller of what Barak was talking about. Let's say it's a big organization. Me as maybe the director, I do not want to go to, I do not register the domain of my own company with the company's assets, such as the company's email. So I delegate to one of my employees. What will happen the day they register the domain with their email address. As a registrar, I can only release information of that specific domain to that email. So even if anyone else writes to me that I am the CEO of this company, for me, I only recognize that specific email. And I think it's some challenge that I strictly emphasize on my clients, that I request them to understand that this email you are providing me with controls this domain.
Okay. So does that mean that, for example, if we have registered KBC
yes.
.co.ke,
yes. Yes.
that if we don't renew at the end of the year,
yes.
you can actually give that domain name to someone else?
Yes, yes. It has a grace period of around 30 days. The registry is the one to determine, but the standard would be 30 days. You have 30 days. After the 1 year ends, the domain will be offline. It will be suspended as pending renewal. If you do not renew within 30 days, the domain may expire and it will be available to be registered by anyone else in the world.
So Barak can own it.
Yes, yes.
KBC.co.ke.
It's not giving out the domain. Yeah. As I said, it's on a cycle. It's on an annual cycle.
Okay.
And if you've registered it today, 27th, then next year, the same day, it is expired. That's why we are emphasizing on the importance of you providing correct information. Because if you don't give us a correct email address, by the time we're sending a notification to tell you that a domain is due for renewal, somebody else will probably get it.
Yeah, or I've registered it.
All right, thank you
Yes.
so much, gentlemen.
Yes.
That's it for today's Take on Tech. You realize we didn't even go into what are the security issues, the benefits as a business to owner.ke, and I think we may request the producer to give us another time to come and continue with the discussion. Take on Tech is a program that explores technological concepts and brings you a panel of experts. And today we had Barak Otieno, we had Kelvin Basharia, who is a registrar, and we had Joseph Marwa, who is from the registry of this country, Kenik. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I'll take you over to Jane to close the program for us. Jane?
Well, thank you, Grace, and that is all the time we had for this discussion. But as you have rightfully put it, we were just scratching the surface with this discussion, and we definitely are going to look for more time to continue with this discussion all about domains here in Kenya. With that, we've come to the end. We just want to say thank you so much for being with us from the beginning up until now. Be sure to join us again next week for another edition of a Take on Tech. My name is Jin Wamboy. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Have a lovely night.
Next on
KICD, every stage from ECD. KICD, shule ya msingi na ya upili. KICD, mahitaji maalum na
Nilisikia kijiji chetu kimeendelea haraka, hivyo nimerudi kutafuta kazi.
Fanya nini? Amesema hayuko hapa.
Mimi wala simkwepi.
Basi kwa nini nataka tuondoke? Mungu wangu, zimepotea.
Nitakupa muda wote wa alasiri hii ili uelezee juu ya wazo lako.
Kweli? Nikiwa kupata wawekezaji, tuna pesa sasa milioni 10.
Milioni 10?
Euro milioni 10. Sasa wamekuwa bosi rasmi, ha?
The Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, nurturing every learner's potential.
I found out that my father is in Patliputra.
How did you get to know about
Acharya
it?
Chanakya told me, but he is not telling me who.
They killed your grandfather, you know, and they set your hut on fire.
I've learned how to please the authority in order to use the power in my favor.
Acharya Chanakya cannot hide the truth in front of Emperor Bindusar.
Do you know who my father is?
Yes.
I must tell the truth to His Highness.
This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
China takes another successful step forward in its space program with the launch of its new generation carrier rocket, the Long March 5B. Coronavirus confirmed cases top 3.6 million globally, while more than 250,000 people have died from the virus. And in our installment of coronavirus impact in Africa, today we highlight how the pandemic is affecting livelihoods. You're watching Africa Live. I am Penina Karibe. A warm welcome to the show. Also with me in studio is Rama with the day's business headlines.
That's right, Elena. Here's what's coming up in the course of the hour. Commercial activities coming back to life in Nigeria's commercial capital after a 28-day lockdown. And authorities in Tunisia acting to stem a rapid rise in food prices during the month of Ramadan. We'll have the details on those stories and lots more coming your way in the course of the hour. For now, let's start with the latest in current affairs with Penina.
Thank you, Rama. Another step forward in China's ambitious space program. Today, it launched its largest carrier rocket yet, the Long March 5B. It carried a new type of spacecraft, helping the country move closer to its goal of building its own space station. Our reporter Ning Huang has more.
China has written another successful chapter in its space exploration pursuits. The success of the mission marks the beginning of the third step of China's manned space program, building a space station.
The success of the mission has laid a solid foundation for China's three-step development strategy for its manned space program. It has strengthened the confidence and determination of people who will be participating in the space industry. According to the plan, the construction of the Chinese space station will be completed in 2022. Chinese people will take more stable steps and go further in exploring the universe.
From its appearance, the Long March 5B rocket is nearly 54 meters in height, about the size of an 18-story building. It has the biggest boost power in the Long March 5 series and could deliver no less than 22 tons of payload at a time to low Earth orbits.
The Long March 5B rocket will directly enter designated orbit with only a single burst of engines. When the first stage engine shuts down, about 140 tons of thrust disappear in a matter of seconds, like a high-speed train suddenly braking and stopping steadily at the designated position.
The rocket carried a new generation of manned spacecraft test ship and a test module of flexible inflatable cargo return capsule. With an inverted cone ship, Not only is the 20-ton spaceship bigger and heavier than the original Shenzhou spaceship, the elegant design and appearance reflects how advanced it is, and reflects the development of China's space engineering over the past decade.
The new spaceship is safer, more reliable, more economical and adaptable to various missions. The innovations we made are the goals we focused on.
The test spaceship has also adopted a new navigation system. It will correct errors of re-entry paths in real time, and a new thermal isolation material which is lighter but offers better performance. And it is changeable as well. The test spaceship will return to Earth on Friday. Ning Hong, CGTN, Beijing.
Officials from the China Manned Space Engineering Office said the successful launch served as a tremendous confidence booster after a couple of failed attempts earlier this year.
The launch of Long March 5B rocket not only shows we're on our way to building a space station, but it also serves as a turning point and brings confidence to future missions.
The official added that one of the payloads on the rocket, the cargo capsule, is scheduled to return on Wednesday. More details were provided on where China's space station mission would go from here. 3 more capsules will be launched in future missions that will form the main body of the space station. China has already started training the astronauts for these missions. In Liberia, dozens of miners are feared dead after mudslides hit 2 mining sites in the gold-rich Grand Cape Mount County. The incident took place in the northwestern towns of Masakpa and Bamgoma. There has been conflicting reports from local authorities on the death toll. One report says 2 bodies have been recovered, while another says that number is at least 45. The victims were reportedly involved in illegal mining activities. Liberia has recorded a number of mudslides in recent years due to heavy rains. Now let's get the latest on COVID-19. Confirmed cases worldwide are over 3.6 million. More than 250,000 people have died from the virus, but 1 million others have recovered. A third of the world's cases are in the United States. It reported more than 1,000 new deaths over the last 24 hours, the lowest figure in a month. Nearly half of the world's infections are in Europe. Spain has seen the most with 218,000 cases. United Kingdom has now overtaken Italy with the highest death toll on the continent. It's reporting over 32,000 deaths, just second to the US. Turkey's confirmed cases are now at 127,000. The Chinese mainland on Monday reported 1 new infection, an imported case, and 15 new cases of people who are asymptomatic. Here in Africa, of 54 countries, only Lesotho is yet to report a case of COVID-19. There are now over 47,000 confirmed infections on the continent, including about 15,500 recoveries and 1,800 deaths. In Kenya, 45 more people have tested positive for the disease. Nigeria, on the other hand, recorded its highest single-day infection rate of the virus on the day it began a phase-out period of emergency lockdown measures. Over 200 cases by the Center for Disease Control on Monday. The update came a few hours after the government relaxed restrictions in 3 major states that were under lockdown for more than 4 weeks. In Tanzania, the head of the National Health Laboratory has been suspended after President John Magufuli questioned the accuracy of tests being conducted. Meanwhile, several African countries have ordered a herbal tonic from Madagascar, said to be a possible cure for the coronavirus. Guinea-Bissau and Equatorial Guinea have already received shipments. However, the World Health Organization has urged caution against promoting traditional remedies as cures for COVID-19 without subjecting them to rigorous scientific testing. Egypt has sent 4 military planes loaded with medical supplies to Sudan. This is in response to shortages Khartoum is facing in medicines and protective gear necessary to confront the coronavirus. The move underscores the strong ties between the 2 countries. In Sudan, more than 600 people have been infected and 41 have died from COVID-19. Meanwhile, Egypt has sent several shipments of medical aid to some of the world's worst-hit countries. Now, CGTN's Adel Mahroui joins us live from Cairo for more on this. Adel, what more can you tell us about Egypt's medical supplies to Khartoum?
Well, it's the first supply of it's the first aid that Egypt sends to a neighboring country. Sudan is one of the strategic allies to Egypt, and once the numbers have been recently significantly growing in Sudan, as reported by Khartoum, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi was keen to send supplies as soon as possible. As you've mentioned, 4 aircrafts, military aircrafts, have landed and sent what is described as the first batch of supplies. And according to the Egyptian ambassador in Khartoum, what as Egypt sent is basically everything that is needed to face COVID-19. So it has testing gears, it has rapid tests, it has facilities and equipment needed for laboratories and blood work, as well as it has medication, recovery and preventive gears, face masks, full body suits and protective measures for people and for the medical staff in Sudan. Egypt wants to give as much support as possible for its southern neighbor and share some of the experience that it has already experienced and went through during the pandemic, as Egypt has been the first country to report cases in Africa. And as I said, this is the first batch, and there is expectations that further assistance will come. And the step also has a significant political effect, as recently tension has been rising between Egypt and Sudan over the Grand Renaissance Dam. But with this political move, we've seen one of the members of the Sovereign Council in Sudan has praised Egypt's move and re-strengthened the confidence that the two countries have together.
And Adel, Egypt has begun COVID-19 clinical trials. What's the status of those trials?
Well, Egypt has been moving in several aspects. For weeks, it has been moving in several trials. Since June 30th, the country has declared that it will move forward with clinical trials and have been trying some of the medications previously known and have been recently showing strong effect on the cure process and the treatment of COVID-19. The country has been also moving in the race, trying to join the global race to form a vaccine for the virus. So it's the first time that Egypt takes a very quick and immediate move in terms of scientific research. I've been researching also furthermore about the exact details. Let's have a listen in this report.
Since March 30th, Egypt has begun clinical trials to test existing medicines to treat COVID-19. By the first week of April, Cairo University, the biggest in the country, formed 5 research teams to join the global race for a vaccine. In mid-April, the university has also announced reaching a treatment protocol which uses 2 antiviral drugs. One interferes with the viral replication and the other strengthens immunity. The protocol awaits the health ministry's approval.
The most important development in Egypt under the pandemic is the greater move towards scientific research. That wasn't evident in the past few years. Egypt has joined trials and research efforts with many international partners, including the World Health Organization, hoping to join the efforts to find a cure.
A common approach to almost all COVID-19 patients in Egypt is nutrition, through which patients follow a healthy diet that aims to boost their immunity.
In quarantine hospitals, there is a strict nutrition program. The main purpose is to cure patients in the least possible time. If they can decrease the treatment period by 4 days, they'll free space for future patients. Due to the limited number of hospital beds available, if we exceed 13,000 cases, there will be crisis because we don't have enough space to treat them.
Egypt is also testing the effectiveness of medicines like Japan's Avigan and Remdesivir, which is used for critical cases. The country is also using plasma transfusion from recovered to sick patients. As an active member of the AU and the Africa CDC, Egypt is committed to cooperate, share capabilities and knowledge in the fight against COVID-19. It has one of the strongest healthcare systems in the continent, and that puts more regional responsibilities on it under the pandemic. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Meanwhile, the Health Ministry has issued the latest infection updates just less than an hour ago, and it has reported the biggest daily infections yet since Egypt has first reported COVID-19 cases. 388 new cases were reported today, the highest ever so far. It has also confirmed the death of 16 new cases in the process. This is above the daily average that Egypt has been reporting throughout the past 2 months. And in general, that raises up the number of total death casualties from the virus to 452 cases so far. And the general total number of infections confirmed is 7,201. And the numbers seems to be growing alarmingly, but still within the expectations that the government has been expecting. And finally, 1,730 patients have been declared cured and left the quarantine, left the hospitals safely back home, while the general number of those have started to test negative for COVID-19 is more than 2,200.
All right, Adil, thank you for that update. Adil Mahri live in Cairo. Nigeria's government says plans are underway to disinfect all schools nationwide before allowing them to reopen. Authorities say it's part of measures to curb the spread of COVID-19. Our correspondent Phil Ihaza reports from Abuja.
The Minister of Environment, Mohammed Mahmoud, says the plan to disinfect and decontaminate schools is geared towards making schools safe before permitting them to reopen. Mahmoud says officials have been finalizing plans for the disinfection exercise due to begin in the coming weeks, and that a specific date will be communicated soon. Despite the government easing restrictions this week, all primary, secondary and tertiary learning institutions remain shut. The government is encouraging schools to adopt e-learning and remote teaching in the interim, while it completes its ongoing work of gathering data for schools nationwide for the exercise. The Environment Minister says the government is also working together with representatives from all 36 states and the federal capital, Abuja, as well as officials from the World Health Organization to ensure the exercise is carried out effectively. President Muhammadu Buhari's administration says it is working hard to manage the COVID-19 outbreak and also curb further spread with initiatives like this. Phil Ihaza, CGTN, Abuja.
Meanwhile, South Sudan's Health Ministry has discharged 2 people who recovered from the coronavirus. The ministry says the country currently has 52 confirmed cases and it's carrying out more tests. CGTN's Patrick Oyet reports.
Karaba Juma is a driver for the first person diagnosed with the coronavirus in South Sudan. Being a driver of the first patient, Karaba was tested and the result was positive. Karaba said he developed a cough, difficulty in breathing and general body weakness. He was isolated and underwent treatment. After 25 days, medical personnel here say he has now tested negative 3 times and he is free to go back home.
I thank all those that treated me here. I ask God to help them and help this country. I urge those who suspect that they've contracted the coronavirus to come forward. There are people saying the government is burning all those that test positive for COVID-19. It's a lie. I was at this hospital and I've been treated well. Who is burning people?
However, South Sudan's Health Ministry says its facilities cannot yet accommodate all those who test positive for COVID-19. It says those that are asymptomatic are quarantined in their homes, but there are reports that some people who tested positive are not following the stay-home order.
They are mobile because they lack certain basic things in their homes. Food, water, electricity. And this will trigger some of them always to leave the house and go outside. But has been raised at higher level to address this situation.
Karaba Juma says his main goal now as he goes home is to follow the health ministry's guidelines to avoid potential reinfection.
Many here now fear that there could be a wider spread of COVID-19 in the country. The government says it will maintain the current partial lockdown and curfew indefinitely, but that it still doesn't see any reason for going for a total lockdown to contain the spread of the coronavirus. Patrick Oyet, CGTN, Juba, South Sudan.
Uganda has reported no deaths since its first case of the coronavirus in March, and more than 50 people have been discharged from hospitals after recovering. Our correspondent Leon Senyange spoke to one survivor who shared his experience.
Emmanuel Safali knows what it's like to be a COVID-19 patient. After returning home to Uganda from a trip to the United Arab Emirates last March, he underwent tests. While he felt okay, his results said otherwise when he tested positive.
An ambulance came here around 10 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock. The doctor comes in. He was dressed normally. He said, I'd come to pick me. I said, what? I said, but I tested. He said, no, they want you.
Safali has completed his days in isolation after being discharged from hospital.
For the first 3 to 7 days, we're not getting any, apart from those vitamin C, okay? Then later on, they started checking on my diabetes, which I've managed for the last 20 years.
With older people more at risk from the coronavirus, his family feared the worst.
We are very, very worried. Very worried, because we had seen there abroad how people were dying in Italy, in America. How about Uganda?
While doctors described Safali's condition as mild, he says it is his own resolve that saw him through.
I was very strong. In myself, I thought I didn't have. But I said in case it came and just grappled me at once, what would happen?
But the steps to recovery were encouraging. Safali was given a clean bill of health sooner than expected. He is now home and wants to work on the construction of his new house.
My biggest worry is the project I had started on, this one, the building one. That was my biggest worry. I had embarked on it. Bank had given me some money. And this is, I started in February. Now I was worried if I died.